to share from Luke chapter 10, verse 38, familiar story, just to bring us someplace in our thinking and thoughts today. I've been spending time reflecting, and I think I mentioned before, coming up on the 25 years of ministry is quite exciting to me. I feel like I've accomplished something that's significant. I feel good that I responded to the call of God and went to do what He asked me to do, and that we've been able to do that faithfully, consistently, to see lives change, to see people come to know Jesus, to see people shed religion, to see relationships brought together, people healed, physically healed, to see the miraculous, to see Plainfield impacted, the region, the city, to see the nations impacted. 25 years. I'm grateful to God for His goodness and for His faithfulness in that. But there was a commitment that had to be made, and we made the commitment. I'm not tooting the horn here. I'm just stating facts. And you know, I'm speaking for purpose, never for a stroke, but a reality that we did the thing. And then when I say we, I mean we, as in all of us, put our hand to the plow and didn't look back. So here we are. And I'm looking forward to what God will do next and being very prayerful. I have to admit that it's not an easy space to be in. I'm looking to hear from God. That's what keeps me on track. When I hear from God, I'm good. When I hear from God, I ain't hearing from none of y'all. I hear from God, I'm good to go. So I'm looking to hear from Him for direction and for clarity. But I've been laser focused, on what God had called me to do. And I'm that kind of person anyway. If I decide I'm going in a certain direction, it's not difficult for me to stay the course. I can get on course, stay the course, driving on to where it's gonna go. And all of that by God's grace. He's the one that puts that in you to be able to do that. But I believe in staying focused, being deliberate about where we're going and how we're going to get there, and then dealing with all that comes with making that kind of a decision. When I first started, I'm going to say about year number 5. Prior to Harvest, I was actually consulting churches, and I was teaching different places. One particular conference I was teaching at, I taught at this conference, leadership conference, for about 10 years. I wrote leadership essentials right in that same time frame, and that book got a lot of play nationally. And in this conference, taught all kind of leaders. Some of those leaders are known, they're doing very well. Many of them actually have mega churches today. They were in my leadership classes. And I built relationships with them, with some of them. Some of them I've served as a consultant, whether it's on a pastoral level or from a business standpoint. And there was one particular instance where a pastor invited me to his church. And, we normally would have, like lunch or breakfast every now and then and kind of chop it up a bit. But this time he said, well, come by the church. And this is a mega church. And he walks me into this office and he said, you like this office? I said, it's a nice office. He said, well, this is your office. He said, if you'll accept this opportunity. It's a six-figure opportunity. You don't have to give up your church. You can keep your church, continue to build your church, but I need you to serve in this capacity, which was like an administrative role. And I know he thought I was crazy because I didn't have to think about it long, and I just said, well, I appreciate it. And I mean, my ego was stroked. I felt good. Okay, wow. All right, you want me to do that? But I said, but I can't because I'm focused, because I got to build this ministry and I got to build this foundation. It's going to take everything to be able to give myself to that process. And so that's what I did. I stayed focused. If you're going to build something solid, you got to put the time in. You got to put the energy in. You have to make sure that you're not easily distracted. I'm using this story today Martha and her sister Mary to kind of bring our attention to something that we must always keep in mind when it comes to ministry and when it comes to what we do, why we do, how we do, that there has to be a a focus on the primary things, and that takes some discipline. Luke chapter 10:38 says, "Now it happened as they went that he entered a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was distracted with much serving. And she approached him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Therefore, tell her to help me." And Jesus answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed. One thing is needed. Mary has chosen that good part, which would not be taken away from her. I'll let the cat out the bag. The point that I want to make in this particular sharing is that we have to maintain the focus on the primary things. And I say that just to remind you and just to bring it to the forefront of your thinking, because it is so easy to get distracted by the non-essentials. But we got to stay focused. You got two sisters here and living in the same house. Jesus comes, and here you have Martha welcomes him into the house. She's the entertainer. She's the one that's moving around and doing everything and trying to make sure that appearances are kept. Working hard, working hard. And it's amazing how you can get involved with doing a lot of stuff and think that you're pleasing God. But God wants us to focus on the primary thing. Now, I'm gonna try to bring this together because I'm trying to work with it in my head to get to the essence, to the point. With ministry, it's so easy to get caught up in activities, events, programs, buildings, dress, all of these things that you can lose focus. I think like a businessman, so I'm always bottom line. I tell people, I think about the net. What's the net? What's at the end of the day, what is it that this is going to net? As I look at church, as I look at what we do, how we do it, why we do it, when we do it, how it's done generally across the board, because there is a way that we've seen church done. There's a way that we've seen ministry done. So the question has always come to my mind, and this is something that's been in my mind forever and a day. Even in getting started with this church, I remember telling Pastor Marvin Wiley that we have a preoccupation with Sunday morning, so much so that all of our time and our energy and our resources, we push it into that one day to try to make that one day the thing. But my question has always been, what's the net? What do you get out of that? What is it that comes out of all of your doing? Martha, what is it that's come out of all of your doing? A lot of activity. Sounds good, looks good, might even be impressive. But at the end of the day, what is it that God is looking for? What is it that is going to be pleasing to the Lord? We had some conversations, the pastors and I, we had some conversations about, virtual versus the physical. And then, how much virtual and how much physical? Do we go virtual? Do we go physical? And what does that mix look like? And what do we do when and how? And I always bring them back as I try to bring other people back to the one point whenever you're doing anything that says ministry, just like in business, what's the bottom line? What is it that you're netting? So I took a look at what is primary to God. The primary thing is to know God, that's number one, and to make God known, that's number two. It's the main thing. That's the main thing. If we're in the building together and I can hear your voices, I'd ask you to say that out loud. It's the main thing. What is the main thing? What is the primary thing? Staying focused on the primary thing. Now, it's somewhat challenging to have these kind of conversations because the thought is, what are we saying? Are we dismissing some things? Are we saying that we're not going to do some certain things? No, I'm saying let's focus on the main thing, the primary thing. Can we keep our focus on the primary thing? Because if you can get set in your mind what is primary and then always measure all that you do by the primary thing, by asking yourself the simple question, are we getting to know God better? That's why I asked for the testimonies. And then are we making God known? And that's when you see a Linda that shows up and says, my prior experience wasn't the best experience, but I came into this space virtually, and I found a connection with God that I had not had before. I found a positive experience with God that I had not had before. I found that I'm waking in the morning and feeling good about the music that I hear, which is just a conversation about God, a conversation about his word. Every morning is what she testified to. These are the measurements. These are the things that I'm saying we have to look to it because, some people are happy. And please hear my heart in what I'm saying today. And I thought, well, this is a holiday weekend and people take holidays on holiday weekend. So the whole family might not get this at the same time. But I felt compelled to say it. Whatever we do going forward, whatever we plan, whatever we decide upon, whatever we do, can we just make sure that all of us as a collective would say, but are we meeting the objective, getting to know God and making God known? Because that is the primary thing. We want to stay focused on the primary thing. Jesus's ministry was very simplistic. He didn't have a lot of bells and whistles. And in fact, he would pretty much shatter any expectation that one would bring that there was going to be all of these trappings involved in following him. And he would say, no, this is a simple deal here. You're gonna give your life up, you're gonna grab your cross, you're gonna follow me, and this is how we're gonna turn the world out. It's not rocket science. Now, I love the beautiful, creative, extraordinary things that the church does. I'm serious. I do. And this post-pandemic generation is really pressing hard with all the technology, all the videos and the bells and whistles, all kind of things popping up. I don't know what are they going to do, but I want them to go ahead and do that. I want to focus on the primary thing. I want to be Mary. I want to be Mary in this, not Martha in this. Now you know me, so I want to do some things nice. I want to do some things that are exciting and fun, and enjoyable. We'll do that. But what is the primary thing? What is the primary thing? Now, in order to stay on track and to achieve the objectives, to meet the goal of heaven, he says, seek first the kingdom of God, all of its righteousness, making it priority, making the kingdom priority. There's a discipline or some disciplines that are required. I want to hit these and I'm gonna wrap it up. The first discipline is not to give secondary things primary attention. That's what Martha was guilty of. She was giving secondary things primary attention. Point is, the secondary things are things that should be in play, but not at the expense of the primary thing. So everything that you do in the name of ministry is not comfortable. Everything that you do in the name of ministry is not exciting. Some things is just a matter of regiment. It's a matter of, that day-to-day read. Some of you who have been reading for 52 weeks, God bless you if you've been with me for the whole 52 weeks. You're not the same person today if you've done that you were yesterday, a year ago. You're not the same person. Now, reading chapter by chapter every day, you and I both know, and I'm reading and I'm texting you a point. I'm reading along with you. And by the way, I don't have some program that I go to and grab that. I'm reading a chapter and I'm writing those texts every single day, right? That's a discipline. What that does for me is it gives me the discipline of reading, helps to give you the discipline of reading. And you know that there are days when you just don't want to read it. And then there are certain chapters that you read them, they're yawners. Hello, somebody? They're yawners. Genealogies drive me nuts, but I always find something down in there that I didn't expect. Always. You're learning names, you're learning locales, you're learning all kind of things, but you do it every day, right? What's my point with that? That's the Mary kind of stuff. The Martha stuff is, things are popping off and she's got some food coming out the kitchen, this, serving that, making everybody feel good. All of the appearances are there that is wonderful. The Mary stuff was real simple. One thing, sit at his feet. See, out of that comes more than you need. Are you with me today? So we have to be disciplined not to give secondary things primary attention. We do them. The bottom line is, who knows Jesus now? Who knows Jesus better? Who was empowered? Brother Darrell said he became empowered in the season to speak to others about his faith. And while speaking to others about his faith, he himself was enriched. That is a kingdom principle. It's the way it works. Jesus said it this way: my meat is to do the will of my Father. When I feed, I'm fed. So much so when the disciples who had gone, I don't know how long, to get him some food, when they came back with the food, he told them, I'm not hungry anymore. And it upset them because they're like, what you mean, man? Do you know what we just did to get you this cheeseburger? Perspective, right? Be disciplined not to give secondary things primary attention. The primary thing is the most important thing. Why do I stress that? Because I want to empower more of all of us to do the work of ministry. That's what I'm called to do. Ephesians 4, that's what I'm called to do. I'm called to empower you to do the work of ministry. I just want us to be on the same page. I want us to understand that at the end of the day, we must always stay focused on the primary thing and never give secondary things primary attention. So yes, we can plan things, we can put beautiful things together, but at the end of the day, what does it mean? And can we reach back and measure? Because we need more testimonies. I'm not going to be satisfied until I got, 500 lenders. Dr. Ann, more Dr. Ann. Dr. Ann got her PhD, y'all, last week. That's why she's Dr. Ann this morning. We can't wait a whole year to celebrate it with the other graduates. We'll get it then, but we had to get it now too, because she rolled up on it and got that thing. Discipline. Here's another one: to let some things be for the moment. Church folk are funny because once we get to doing something, we feel like we got to keep doing it, even when it stops working. We feel like we have to keep doing it, even when it's lost its luster. The time is over for that. You don't need to do that anymore because it is not adding to the bottom line. The primary thing is no longer being addressed. It's become something else. It's become tradition. It's become the thing that we do, a part of the culture, that we just do it because we've already always done it and we like doing it, right? But Jesus basically told Martha, what you need to do is choose what she chose and let that go. Some things you have to have the discipline to let some things go. Then you have to manage distractions and disruptions well. That's another discipline. Managing distractions and disruptions well. Some are subtle, others are blatant. I might suggest, and you may agree with me or you may not, that the subtle distractions and the subtle disruptions tend to be the ones that do the most damage. People ask questions. Those are the subtle ones. Sometimes it's a statement made, well, when y'all gonna do this? When y'all gonna do this? When y'all gonna do the other? Why don't you do this? Or why don't you do that? Why don't you do the other? All designed to plant a seed to disrupt, to distract from what is the primary thing, because most people are not focused on the primary thing. Most people are focused on secondary, tertiary things that are away from the primary thing. When you get back to that primary thing, it's not complicated, but it is something that requires focus and discipline and commitment. Are you committed to the primary thing? We must be committed to the primary thing. Mary was awesome because if you have to have the visual of a party going on, everybody's excited, food is rolling, drinks are rolling, the whole thing. I mean, it's that high energy kind of a space. All of these distractions around Mary, all of the things she's watching her sister do her thing, she's watching those in the house who are being served and a part of this, all busy with activity. But this woman was committed to the primary thing. She wasn't going to allow these disruptions of her sister banging the pots and hollering out from the kitchen, why don't you come in here and help me? She wasn't going to allow that to get her off of her position, her commitment to the primary thing. Are you committed to the primary thing? I'm committed to the primary thing. Your pastor is committed to the primary thing. And all of my heart cries out, Lord, please let this next phase of ministry, let us nail the primary thing. Let us go to the heart of what is important to you and stay right in that space and not be distracted by the Marthas, not be distracted by the activity, not be distracted by all of what's going on, but being laser focused as we have been. But let's take it to another level and let us all do it collectively. So we got to be disciplined and committed, because I'll tell you this now, tests will always come when you decide to focus on the things that are important to God. It will be tested. Your commitment will be tested. So you got to make a decision. What I'm going to do with that? I'm staying in the saddle. I'm staying focused. I'm just looking for some folk to run with me. I know I got them. I'm talking to them. But this is a word of encouragement, a word of empowerment to say we can do this thing, because here's the one thing. You notice that Jesus endorsed one behavior here. It was Mary's actions that he endorsed. We got to squelch complaining, squelch shaming and guilting voices, having different agendas, varied agendas. I don't have time to develop that. I can just say that people will always talk when you're trying to do the right thing for God. You will always have those voices, always. And most of those voices are trying to disturb your flow, because they don't want to be committed, so they don't want you to be committed. If you stay committed and you stay focused and you stay online with the priorities, when you have committed to the primary thing, there will always be people who will try to pick at it to get you off of that. Because you know what? Every time you show up committed, you show up the darkness that they're working in. You become the light, and you illuminate things that they don't want illuminated. So you got to stay with it. Got to stay focused. So we have to be disciplined to align ourselves with the priorities of heaven, align ourselves with the priorities of God. closing with verse 41. This is somewhat of the Nolan version. I reworked some of the words just to make the point as I close. Verse 41, and Jesus answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled by secondary things. Mary has chosen the primary thing. And check it out, the primary thing which will be sustained. Verse 42, sorry. But one thing is needed. Mary has chosen that good part which will not be taken away from her. That's the New King James. In other words, it will be kept. It will be sustained. That is a priority to heaven will always receive the backing of heaven. And that's where we want to be. Amen. Thank God.